Yeah, I mean that's so important. I mean to give them we've got to give them the tools so they can operate. I mean that's going to be key to it going forward. And to be fair, some of them have done it very very well. Yeah, but the overall point is they need to, certainly going forward, I think they need to see the opportunities for e-commerce as going to be a larger piece of the pie in terms of the retail operation. I think they got to take that seriously. It's not just an add-on to their existing retail. Bearing in mind, John, it's a very tactile business. I mean, I think when, again, when people, they visit some of the resort clubs in the south of Ireland, north of Ireland, etc., I think it's very important, that they have the right measure and the right range of product available. But the key to it is, I mean, that's where people are going to buy their product, because they bought it as a memento of their visit primarily. I mean, I suppose there is an argument to say that people will buy, the top clubs, shirts and sweaters, etc., online. I hope they certainly do. But I don't believe that it's going to be at the level that it would be, obviously, if they were there on site. And I think that's the bridge they've got to cross, and that it's just getting the opportunity to find, as you say, whether it's, whether they're specific, whether it's summer specials or winter specials or Christmas specials, whatever it might be going forward. But I think they've actually got to gear themselves up for that, and just be alert to the opportunities. But it's still, it's an audience thing. And again, certainly with a lot of our overseas visitors, I mean, they would be very proficient at buying online, and they're used to the whole mail order scenario. But I think ultimately it's still got to be down to getting boots on the ground and getting people through the front door. I think that's going to be such a big part of it.
And from your experience, if we just went focus particularly on the different types of products that might be faster movers than others.
Sure.
Certainly I know you had a lot of experience in the accessory range as well. So if we were saying between accessories and clothing, how would you see that developing over let's say if you had a functioning e-commerce platform as opposed to starting up?
Yeah. I certainly think that I mean, overall, the apparel side of things to me would be a far stronger element of and should be promoted more heavily, let's say, than the personalized accessories. The accessories, John, is peculiar. It's very much an impulse purchase. I mean, by their nature, they're low value items. It's 5, 10, it's 15, it's 20 euro for individual pieces, whether be they pitchforks, golf towels, etc. Typically, I suppose, to be fair to the clubs, I mean, they want to generate higher value sales, as higher value as they can, to justify their existence, really. So I think the emphasis really should be put on a lot of the clothing items. I mean, typically you're talking golf shirts right across the board. I mean, it is the factor that drives most of the golf clubs in the resort business is the volume of shirts that they sell. It really is. So, I mean, they just need to gear themselves up to doing that well. And predominantly, focus on maybe individual brands, potentially market one main brand for a week and then work through the various brands. A lot of them will carry multiple brands, 8, 10, 12 brands. That may be not possible over a short season. But they should certainly do a significant push. I would have thought on brands, because people identify with their favorite brand very, very, very clearly. I think that's important to do. Certainly with the brands I work for, we've seen specifics where people would say, look, they want our collection of shirts for the season for example, on a PDF page that they can email to their customers. I mean, that's been a big help for them, I'm sure. We've had some feedback on that. The numbers have been quite positive, actually, in the initial. I suppose the difficulty they're going to have is just sustaining that and keeping the momentum in driving those sales, because obviously you can't send the same picture every week. But this is why they've got to come up with a strategy, whether they just work with various brands and do a 6-week blitz across the various brands, pick their 6 key brands perhaps, and just market those quite heavily online. I think that's going to be very important. You've got to have the online presence. They got to be able to buy it, but you've also got to be able to market. Now, whether that's through Instagram, Twitter, on Facebook, I see a lot of the prominent clubs advertising their product in that, and it's really very much a 2-pronged approach from that point of view. But it doesn't replace the boots on the ground, John. It doesn't replace people visiting, people walking through your front door. That's why I think certainly the apparel, I mean, to me, there should be a stronger emphasis on apparel more so than the accessory side. I think the accessories, as I said, they are really very much the impulse purchase when you're there.
Indeed, yes. And when you mentioned about these, about online trading, there is from the local enterprise office, it depends on where you're located and so forth, is that there is a trading online voucher scheme. So essentially what it is, the local enterprise will offer financial assistance up to 2,500 with co-funding from 10% of the business. Right. Now, there's terms and conditions attached to that, but at the same time, it would be beneficial if someone was looking for support to do it, because part of the process would be, if you didn't have a platform and to make one costs money, is that you could send your a note to your web developer or pal that you might know and say, listen, I'd like to build X, how much would it cost? And that would be a support along with that. And that you
it's a good initiative, John. It certainly is a good initiative. I suppose, I mean, it's it's very much how long is a piece of string in terms of what you want to spend on your website. But certainly for the smaller clubs, I would have thought, and for the smaller, if you like, the indigenous retailers, I mean, the smaller members clubs, I think that's very, very positive step for them. And I think that's important, that typically members clubs could possibly, have a stronger presence online. I think with the bigger the resort clubs, again, John, I know we're driving the resort club thing quite strongly, but I mean, typically in relative terms, they're relatively wealthy golf clubs, and they have the facilities, I would have thought, to develop and to manage their own sites actually very, very well themselves. But nonetheless, it's a very good initiative, and I think it should be applauded. But I think it's certainly something for potentially the smaller golf clubs to jump on board with, that's for sure.
Indeed, yeah. So from your vast experience there, Rob, you've highlighted some very, very good points about different types of strategies people can do with brands, talked about the various different types of products to focus on. I think that's all. It's broad, but at the same time, I find it's just providing a thought process to think about, because you can reflect a bit more on what's been discussed and go into more detail if you need some more information, because I mean, everybody's situation is very uniquely different. And to have, solution.
Sorry for cutting across you, John. They are very much broad brushstrokes in terms of general commentary on the industry. I mean, I would like to get into more specifics. It's probably not appropriate to get into specifics with the brands and the various clubs. Some of them do it really, really well. Some of them do it better than others. Some of them need, some of them need a little bit more, probably a little bit more professional approach to it. They certainly need an IT specialist, or they need some web developing people on board to certainly help them out, But as I say, it's a very broad conversation. So, but there's no doubt that they will see from this year that they need to have that presence. They need to have an online presence. They need to back it with social media. And again, I know that's a very broad commentary, but they've had their eyes open, certainly in the last 2 months, is what's happened. I mean, without the footfall, for whatever reason, we've seen, unfortunately, situations in the past, be it the 9/11 situation, be it wars in the Middle East, where, travel has broken down in terms of the essential numbers coming to Ireland. And again, unfortunately, we've seen it again this year. So that's why, they need to actually have a much stronger presence and have a strategy for that. But as I say, hopefully it's not come too late for people. It's the early days in May. We've a long way to go for the end of the season. And I've seen some developments, certainly in the last number of days, requests from some of the key clubs to get some more information, to get some more marketing assets, more product images, and they would be studio shots of products, key products. So, I mean, certainly they are, if they've not already done it, they are gearing up, and they realize that, this year is going to be, if they're not online and have a strong presence, that they will struggle. They will struggle through the winter. As you know, there is a long winter in this business, John.
Yeah, there is.
That's why they've got to succeed now through the winter, or through the summer months, rather.
It's quite possible, I'm sure, and if not all, most of the customers that you deal with would have your contact information. But for other people that don't have your contact information, would you mind if I stuck your contact information on this link as well? So for people to contact you.
Yeah, no, be delighted. Yeah, no, absolutely delighted. I mean, again, as I say, we've had a very broad conversation about the general industry. Yeah, for sure. Certainly put on some contact details. Yeah, you know, it's certainly nice to have a presence in the industry, and contact details. Yeah, would be certainly a big help. That's for sure.
Great stuff.
That is for sure.
Robert Doherty, the illustrious, illustrious, amazing, wonderful insight.
Oh, John, I normally get embarrassed, but I'm 7 out of 10 on that scale now, my friend.
Hey, listen. By the way, no, finished yet. What's with the background anyway? Tell us a bit more.
Oh, John, you don't want to know. This is my little office, John. And over the course of the year, the screen has got closer and closer to my front desk. I'm looking at. I'm actually sitting. I have a nice view of the front garden here. But the screen actually starts at the back of the office, which goes back about 12 or 14 feet. But I'm actually carrying so much stock at the moment, John. And the screen actually just, I suppose, essentially just screens it from public view as people walk by my lovely front garden. So yeah, it's a Chinese screen, John. I was gonna say it's an antique, but it's not. I think we bought it in, I think it was Meadows and Bourne about 12 years ago, John.
Nice.
It was pricey at the time. It's quite tasty. But every time I walk in here, I think I take another chip out of the wood, John. But yeah, it's mother of pearl and a black lacquer finish, John.
Wonderful. And on that fantastic note, we'll call it a day. And thank you very much indeed, Rod. Thank you.
Not at all. Always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.